And a very good afternoon, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us today for a webinar I know you will find interesting. My name is Sandy Elson, and on behalf of the travel professional community and homebasedtravelagent.com, I want to welcome all of you and thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us today. We are so happy to welcome as our host Uniglobe Travel Center. Our speakers are Carol Fulmer and Summer Corbett. Summer and Carol's topic is Discover How to Communicate Your Value as a Travel Agent. And I know that's a topic we're all interested in. First, a few words about our speakers. Carol Fulmer is Manager of Business Development for Uniglobe. Carol began her professional career as an educator before she found herself drawn to the travel industry. Since then, she has worked as a travel agent, agency manager, travel school director in travel personnel services, and has consulted with hundreds of industry professionals in all aspects of business management, marketing, and customer service. In 1990, Carol joined Uniglobe Travel USA as Director of Agency Training and Development, and now serves as Manager of Business Development for Uniglobe. Summer Corbett is Sales and Marketing Manager for Uniglobe. Summer graduated from Florida State University in 2008 with degrees in International Business, Finance, and Human Resource Management. In 2011, she joined Uniglobe Travel Center as an independent agent to pursue a business in group adventure travel. Most recently, Summer worked as an assistant marketing manager in the creative marketing department at CNN before joining Uniglobe Travel Center at the beginning of 2016 to manage marketing and recruitment for Uniglobe. Before we get started, please remember that you are all muted, but if you have questions for our speakers, you can type them in at any time in the question area on the right-hand side of your screen. At the end of the presentation, we will get to as many questions as we can. Also at the end of the presentation, Carol and Summer will be giving away a $50 gift card to one lucky travel agent who has attended this entire webinar. We'll tell you more about that giveaway later, but just as a hint, you may want to take some notes during this webinar. So I'm going to turn the microphone over to Carol so she can get started. Welcome, Carol and Summer.
Thank you. Thank you, Sandy.
Hi, everybody.
There you go. That'll be our big trick, Summer, not to talk over the top of each other. We're really excited to be here and to be able to talk about a topic that is near and dear to our hearts. We value so much what all of you do as travel professionals. And sometimes I get the feeling that you're not sure how fabulous you are and are a little shy about communicating that to those potential and existing clients. So that's what we're going to spend a little time talking about today. And I'm going to move on to our next slide and have Summer say hi again.
Hey.
You know, you might think because that photo of myself was photoshopped beautifully, but actually I'm much older than Summer, much older, which means that I've been in this industry for a very long time. Summer, on the other hand, comes to us with a little different perspective about how travel has evolved and what it means to be a travel consultant. And I think that the balance is pretty good for us to discuss this topic. What do you think, Summer?
Yeah, I think definitely just, being the kind of token millennial, I've got a little bit different view of how things are today, and hopefully I can kind of share some of those insights with you guys.
I don't even think she's our token millennial anymore because we actually have another one, but that's all right. We'll call you that if you like. So to start things out, we want all of you to be thinking about what are these things that you hear when you talk with folks about what your job is, what you do. Does anyone even use travel agents anymore? I know you've heard that one. And, well, everybody knows it's cheaper online. How about that? You've heard that one too, right? Hasn't the internet eliminated the travel agent? You've heard it. I know you have. And, of course, I could just book it all myself, right? So those kinds of things that we know are in the minds of folks is what we're going to address today. What do you think this is about, Summer?
Well, I think people get a little bit scared at those questions because they're not really sure what to say to them. So the questions aren't that scary when you're prepared with an answer. So that's kind of what we want to do today is make sure you're just like this guy here, and every time you get those kind of hard questions, you've got a response ready to counter that argument they have.
And actually the words, do you think you could practice the words and actually know exactly what you might be saying to someone, even if it's in an elevator or at your grocery store? What do you think? I do.
Definitely. I mean, it's always great to have that ready. It's just like a, sort of like an elevator speech that you've got for your business pitch. I mean, it's the same thing. You know what kind of questions you'll run into, so just have those ready to answer.
You might be tempted to groan, but that's probably not that's probably not the good way to start whatever your response might be. So some of the things we want to approach are the idea of who is using travel agents. Now, I'm using travel agents on purpose. Why? Because the media does seem to be stuck on all of us being travel agents, not travel consultants, not travel advisors, no matter what it says on your business card. We're going to get referred to as travel agents a lot, and I think we just have to kind of roll with that a little bit. And here's the part I found so interesting in recent data that was published. The use of travel agents is at a 6-year high, and that increase is being driven not by me, baby boomers, but by millennial travelers. Who would have thunk it? Why would that be the case? And I'm turning it over to Summer for that one.
Right. So, I mean, I can kind of say this from personal experience. So, I actually just got back from Iceland 2 days ago, and I love travel and I love planning my own trips. But when it comes down to it, I will do my own research and then I'll hand it over to a travel agent to book it. And so I actually have an Icelandic travel agent, and I use an Icelandic travel agent because I want the person who knows that place the best. So I think the thing with millennials is that traveling is very important to us. We're spending a lot of our money on travel as opposed to, buying houses early and families early. And so we want the most bang for our buck. And that doesn't mean we want the cheapest. It means that for what we're doing, we want to make sure that we fit everything in. We're going to the right places and we're spending our money wisely. And yeah, we can do some research and yeah, we can get an idea of what we want. But I think that what people don't realize is how much millennials want that expert opinion to make sure that they are getting a value for their dollar.
That is wonderful to hear. I mean, it really is, because I believe we are, or have been, at least I have been, a little confused about that. You mentioned once before that even time, to take the time to do all the research and do everything yourself. You know how you could do it, but sometimes you don't have the time to do it. Yes?
Yeah, I mean, especially too, I think I like to go on sort of complex vacations. I like to fit in as much as possible into one location, or maybe going on multiple locations for one trip. And that's just really hard to coordinate all yourself. So that's why you kind of want that expert opinion and people who can really put that together. And a lot of it is, what I think about is if I get into a jam and I'm somewhere and I don't have Wi-Fi access and I can't rebook myself on a flight, it's easy to send a text or a call or get Wi-Fi long enough to send an email and make sure I've got someone who can kind of take care of that for me.
One of the most important things that you kind of hope never happens, but of course you do want to be rescued when you need it. So here's the point that you touched on just very briefly, but it's such an important one. There's a notion that everything might be cheaper online, or I could find a cheaper trip somehow or another. I'm absolutely mind-boggled by this recent study by ASTA. I mean, it was a huge study that they did, published in May, June of this year. You can purchase the entire study on ASTA's website, and it actually says that the average travel agent saves a client, on average, $452 on a trip, and this I really believe, 4 hours at least of planning time per trip. Do you think that's possible, Summer?
I mean, I would. I'm actually surprised that that 4 hours is that low. I would almost assume it would be more, because I know what goes into it. And you know, you see this number, and $452 is maybe not what you're gonna save someone on a weekend trip. But when someone's doing a complex vacation or tour package, you know, when an agent can kind of find the right things, and find the right value, I think that definitely makes sense, that number.
And those who have been doing this for a long time, you're the folks who know that this is true. And it's not every trip, and it's not going to be every time, and that's okay. But when you are putting together, as Summer says, one of those complex trips, there's a good chance that you are going to be able to actually save time, certainly, and money possibly. But here's the point. Even if online were always cheaper, and that's not necessarily so, we know, is cheaper always better? And of course that's not true, because there's that thing called value, and that's not about cheap. It really isn't. I have a friend who likes to say, so how cheap does a bad haircut have to be okay? Well, we know. We don't care if we only pay $3. If it's a lousy haircut, we're not going to be happy. That's kind of how it is with travel stuff. Some input from Summer.
No, I mean, I think you nailed it exactly. I understand that people have budgets, and I have budgets. I mean, just about everyone does. So it's not that you can't find them a reasonably priced trip, but when you're looking for cheap, I mean, I think another thing is if you have clients and all they care about is cheap, they might not end up being the kind of clients that you want, because you want clients who are going to be loyal and who are going to kind of trust your advice. And if they're constantly price shopping you, you know, the time that you're spending researching a trip for someone who might not end up booking it because it's not cheap enough, you might have spent your time better, you know, those 10 hours of planning, let's say, you know, cultivating relationships with other customers, who are more loyal and, you know, aren't going to price shop you. So I think you've got to find a balance of, I want to find something that's budget friendly because I understand that they have, you know, financial restrictions, but I'm not just going to throw out the most dirt cheap thing I can find and then be completely unhappy and never use me again.
Yep, absolutely. And I think most of the folks who are listening to us today, they realize that concept. But again, to communicate that to clients, to let them know what it is that you're going to work with them on, making sure they're going to have the best possible experience that matches what they're looking for without paying a penny more than they have to. I mean, that's value, and that's where your job comes into play. So just finding that deal is hopefully not what any of you are about, because you almost always lose at that game. I don't know if any of you have run into a situation where you've had a potential client who didn't book with you, but then they do call you to get them out of a jam when the trip turns out to be a disaster. I've heard those stories before, and we know it happens. Nothing that you see on the internet or even on your phone, wherever you're looking online, nothing's going to look clunky and ugly if it's being promoted by that supplier, cruise line, the hotel. They're all going to be the pretty pictures. They're all going to make it sound fabulous, and it isn't always going to be fabulous. If there is a reason the price is a lot lower, it may not be a good reason. There's a reason, but it may not be one that will enhance the trip. That's for sure.
And another thing, you know, we always talk about is, are you comparing apples to apples? So if they bring you something from the internet, and they say, well, look, it's $500 cheaper here, you know, you've got to look at what it is they're bringing you, and look at if they're actually comparing something similar. So they might, you know, run into some extra fees and taxes and resort fees and things like that once they get there that they're not realizing. So, you know, you just kind of have to sometimes talk them through it and explain why, the price isn't the same, and explain the differences, and then it's up to them to decide, if it's important for them to have those things taken care of ahead of time or have some surprise costs when they get there.
Absolutely. And again, as we evolve as true consultants in this industry, I think those are the kinds of things where we don't necessarily get twitchy because someone comes to us and says, oh, I found it much cheaper somewhere on the internet. Because we know, just as Summer said, that if part of our job is to help them figure out if that is actually a good deal and a good price, or if it does include some hidden things, or is not really a comparison of like product to like product. That's part of our job. And if we really hate that part of it, that's a shame because it's going to come up. We know it is. And what about this one? Do you ever say to yourself, but how can I possibly compete with what's on the internet? What do you think, Summer?
Yeah, I mean, this one is sort of near and dear to me because more than kind of competing with the prices, because I think, occasionally you're going to run into a situation where you can't compete with price, but in a lot of cases, suppliers might be able to match it, or you can explain that you're not comparing apples to apples and kind of talk them into it. But where I think about this is I have so many agents that I've talked to, and especially in 2011, when I decided I wanted to enter the travel industry, I was very young and there weren't a lot of agents my age, and all the ones that I talked to, what I kept hearing over and over is, oh, but, there are all these big companies on the internet, and I don't know how I'm supposed to, advertise or market or keep up with them. And there was so much complaining, about the internet. But listen, the internet's been here a really long time, and it's here to stay. And if you're still complaining about it, you've got to get over that hump. Because what I think people don't realize is that the internet was sort of a great equalizer. Because companies can buy billboards, companies can buy TV ads. You can't do that. But when it comes to the internet, it allows you to actually market in the exact same places that every large company can. And sure, they can put more money behind it, but with so much now marketing and advertising on the internet, you can really target your audience to your perfect customer. So you don't need, $100,000 to market to 1 million people because you don't want 1 million people. Those are not your target clients. So what I think I would really love for people to embrace is different ways to market on the internet, realizing that you can find your perfect client and you don't have to spend a lot of money, and you have to embrace it. It's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. It's only getting, there's only more and more opportunities. So you really just have to kind of get on board with it and take the plunge.
I love it. I love that idea of leveraging what the internet has made available to the smaller business and find ways that that's going to work for you. I have to say kudos to Summer because of her background. I don't want to say it's just that she's naturally smart, but her background in doing a lot of the digital marketing things. She really does understand how that works, and we're very fortunate to be able to interact with her and get a better understanding of that targeting factor that is so big with social media and other things, even search on the internet. So it's important to be aware that that's a possibility and does allow for you to have that greater level of competitiveness than you probably ever realized. So thank you for that, Summer.
Yeah.
So does this really matter? Is it important? Can you leverage the fact that you are a human? What do you think?
I think about it when you call someone maybe for your phone service. Everyone is annoyed when they have to go through the automation, right? Everybody just wants to talk to someone. They just want to press zero. Just send me to the operator. You just want to speak to someone. And especially with travel, it's such a personal thing. Um, I have a friend actually who she went with me to Iceland this past week, and I won't say her name, so you guys, I don't want you to hate her, but she did book her flight through one of the online travel agencies, one of the major ones. And she messed up and she booked it for the wrong day. So she was going home a day later. And she went up to the ticket counter at the airport and they said, well, you didn't book it through us. We can't help you. And I guarantee you, when she called who she booked it through, they were absolutely no help either. And I think a lot of people now are getting a bit burned by those large online agencies and realizing that they're not going to get a lot of help. And so, it's your job to kind of swoop in and sell the human factor and sell, the idea that if something happens, that you can be there to assist them. And even in the planning process, it's a personal decision. You want to enjoy your trip. You want to help them build an itinerary that they're going to love and that fits their personality. And it doesn't matter how many algorithms you have or robots. There's no online agency that can do that can provide that human touch. So you really have to emphasize that and play that to your advantage.
So what you're telling us, and I think we all sort of suspected this, is that we are in a business that is still about relationships. Even though there's been a lot of evolution, a lot of things have changed, but the value that we bring to it has to do with the fact that we really care about our clients. We care about travel. We're passionate about travel, and we want our clients to have these remarkable experiences. That's the human factor, the caring, the relationship. And I couldn't agree more that that's where we have to really put our emphasis and leverage what it is that we have, that really there is no competition on the internet for that.
Absolutely. And I think that's part of the job too, is to cultivate that relationship. So if you book something for someone, keep in touch with them, follow up with them, make sure they feel like you care. And that will help bring them back and make them loyal as well.
And I skipped ahead to a slide, but before we leave that thought, I just have to mention that I have a plumber that sent me a thank you note after he came to my house to do some plumbing. Now, do you think I would ever use anyone else? No, I got this personal thank you note from a plumber. I was blown away. But what a smart man. And I thought, if someone's that smart, I want him to come back and be the one that takes care of the plumbing in my house. So it wasn't an ad, it wasn't a discounted Groupon coupon. No, this was a personal touch. And I think that still plays just as important, maybe even a more important role than it has in some past years when people figured they could just do it all themselves. Now, can someone book anything themselves? Yes. Many, many times over, in many places, many times a day, they could. They could do all the research, they can book anything themselves. But one of the factors that counts as well is that thing we mentioned about the time saving. If you thought, well, gosh, because of having my handy-dandy phone in my hand, I can do everything myself. But do you have time to do everything yourself? Do you have the expertise to do everything yourself? Probably not. And I think millennials get that sometimes more than some of the rest of us. What do you think, Summer?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to realize that there are some people who genuinely want to do it themselves.
Sure.
That's a huge craze for anything now, is to do it yourselfer, right? You could hire someone, but some people enjoy it. And you know what? Then let them. You've got to chase the right clients. And so, yes, they can book on themselves. Your job is to explain, why it would be easier for you to do it. Maybe explaining what I think a lot of people don't understand, that in a lot of cases, it's not that they're being charged extra to use you. Some people use fees, that's totally fine, but kind of explaining that as well. And that I think that you just really have to communicate to your clients that you basically can kind of take that stress off of them and really provide an excellent service for them.
I kind of like the idea of collaboration, because I believe having all the resources that people do to look at some things about their own trip, they're absolutely going to do that. But if they realize they're not turning everything over to you, they're not giving up total control, but together you're going to collaborate, you're going to get their input, their ideas, their expectations, you're going to bring in the resources and expertise that you have, and then together you're going to come up with just the right thing for them. I believe that that is probably the strongest thing other than the relationship part, you know, and that's going to be something we build all the time. But letting them know that we expect their collaboration on things.
Definitely agree.
So I forgot to give credit, and I must do so now. Some of you will recognize some of these slides from my good friend Nolan Burris. Nolan Burris, who's been in the industry doing fabulous things, and you've probably seen him at events. In fact, you probably all think he's your very best friend, because that's how Nolan is. He is best friends with all of us. And Nolan has made all of these really fabulous slides available for any of you that want to use them, and he's happy to have them be used. And I love that, because it's not even about, let me just give him credit for these. No, he's made a lot of these, here's your value, available to you so that you can put them as a Facebook post, for instance. In fact, the easier way to do that was to just have them all available on a Facebook page that he has. So the Facebook page that Nolan has is his Future Proof Travel Solutions by Nolan Burris. That's his page. And there's over 100 of these postings that you can then just click on and share it to your Facebook page if you so choose. And that's a plug for that, because it doesn't cost you a penny, and they're wonderful. And this is one of them. And it's talking about, well, look, it doesn't even have to talk about anything. Look at that little girl and be so happy you're not the parent or grandparent that tried to take her on this vacation without knowing enough about what might be going on at the property or in the area where the beach is closed. It could have, you know, too much seaweed in the ocean. It could have stingrays. It could have stuff that's going on that could have been known ahead of time. So part of what we do is help people to avoid that vacation dissatisfaction. I don't know about any of your clients or people that you've worked with running into actual scams. I mean, people that are really out to just cheat them out of their money when it comes to travel things. Have you run into anything like that, Summer? I don't think you're a target for a lot of that.
No, I mean, I think though, anytime it sounds too good to be true, I tend to be a little suspicious, so I don't even bother clicking on it. But a lot of people see those things and are very, susceptible to being a target for those, because they just are looking for something cheap, and they don't really know what they're getting. And that's why you've got to kind of sell yourself as an agent and say, listen, I'm going to get you a value, and I'm going to get you the best vacation, but let's make sure it's what you want, and let's make sure you're not, in the cabin right by the elevator where you can hear everyone, or in the hotel room right by the dumpster, and that's your view. So I think it's hard, and some people are going to go for it, but like I said earlier, you've got to find your right client, and you've got to target the right people, and you can't get frustrated on the few people who are going to book it themselves or just price shop you. You've just got to move on and make sure that you cultivate relationships with clients that are going to stick with you.
So if someone has said something to you relative to, let's say they've seen something at a ridiculous price and you're pretty sure it isn't a valid offer, you know that you also have to be careful not to ever make anyone, this is an old-timey sales thing, but you can't make anyone wrong or stupid. They're not going to be happy if anything you say infers, oh, well, for heaven's sake, surely you know if it looks too good to be. Now, of course, you wouldn't do that. I know you wouldn't. But picking your words so that as you're talking with someone, you're able to say, wow, that would be an amazing price if indeed it comes with the various features that are important to you. You know, things like that, where you really think through your words and decide how you're going to say it. You can always use that third party. Many of my clients or other clients, they don't have to be your clients, other clients have found that they greatly prefer this over that when they're interested in good food or whatever it is. So being sure that you're not saying, oh my goodness, you would never want to go there. It's just got, really an ugly beach and nasty food. Those aren't words I know that you say, but have you thought through carefully how you approach things when someone says, well, I can't imagine you're working in that industry. Aren't travel agents gone, a thing of the past? So you want to think it through so that you can say, it's not surprising you might think that. A lot of people have thought that. However, and then you go in with some of these things that we've presented today. You can track and get your own up-to-date ideas from surveys and things that are being done and being published in top magazines and top newspapers, be they online or not. So if you have those kinds of things that you're kind of collecting, then it's easy to say, well, a recent Forbes article, or I just read the other day in USA Today, or whatever it is. When you're collecting those, I think it gives that reinforcement to what it is that you already know, but you're giving a little third-party reinforcement. Any thoughts on that, Summer?
No, I mean, I think you really have kind of captured that really well. Um, yeah, I mean, I think that with all of this is you just have to, like we said, you've got to be prepared. You've got to have your answers ready, and you've just got to, in some cases, roll with punches and push through and move on. If the client's not right, and I think that you'll be just fine.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. Trying to bend, crimp, and staple so every client is going to be the one that you work with, probably not a good idea. There are plenty of people out there who will value what you do. We're finding more and more and more of those folks. And the good news is those are the people that are spending the most money, that are going to places and doing things that are the most interesting for you to be involved in. I mean, it all works really, really well and comes together. So I think it's a great time to be in the travel industry and to maybe rethink a little about what the role of the travel agent, travel consultant, travel advisor, what the role is. It is constantly evolving. I've been around long enough to have seen travel agents be something entirely different than they are now in terms of their value. But unfortunately, and both Summer and I, and I'm sure many of you have run into this, where even though the whole business of booking travel or researching travel has a bunch of elements that are moving parts, some travel industry folks haven't really evolved with that and embraced it. And that would be a mistake, I think. There's
Yeah,
so much is out there. What do you say, Summer?
no, I mean, I agree. I think people can get a little bit stuck in the way that it's always been, and I think that if you've got that mindset, then you might get left behind. I get that learning new things is hard, but when you're passionate about the industry, that helps because then you stay up to date on what's going on. There's always going to be some new thing that agents don't like Airbnb, for instance, or Uber rather than booking them a transfer. But there are certain agents that are finding ways around that, or finding sites that they can book apartments and get a commission off of it. Or some agents I know just kind of work directly with some of the folks on Airbnb. So there's always ways to evolve. You just have to be willing. And I think that's the big thing is you've just got to bite the bullet and say, this is how it is. And if I want to stay in this industry, then I need to do my research, stay up to date, and really maybe sometimes move outside your comfort zone. Because a lot of times we advise our clients when they're traveling, you're going to have a great time. Maybe you should try something outside your comfort zone. I feel like that's when people have the best trips. And I think that you have to take that advice for yourself sometimes and really just embrace what the things that are happening, because some of them end up being really fantastic.
That's a great idea, and much easier for you to say than some of us who wake up on some mornings and just say, not one more new thing. I don't want to learn one more new thing. But then that passes, and we can get enthusiastic and enjoy the exciting options of an evolving travel industry and really kind of rethink our role within that industry, even if we've been in it for a long time. And then if we're just new to the industry, oh, the opportunities and the ways of approaching things are just so amazing, and that can be very, very exciting too. What I know for a fact is that the people who come into the travel industry, and I must have talked with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds who are just new to the travel industry. And why do they come? They come because, and they always say this, I have a passion for travel. I just love to travel, and I want to share that with others. I mean, they don't really come in very often saying, I hear this is the way to make the big bucks. I mean, they plan on making some money, but it's more about having that passion for travel, knowing that as they get better and better at being able to work with their clients and help their clients have these remarkable experiences, they're going to love their job even more. I mean, that's what we're so fortunate about, to be in this industry. What do you think, Summer?
Yeah, I think I've never actually, I've heard travel agents get frustrated or discouraged sometimes, but I'm not sure I've ever heard any of them say, God, I just hate my job. And I hear that from a lot of other people. But with travel agents, I haven't heard that because even though, there are things that are maybe tough to learn that are new or some clients can be frustrating, I think it's one of the most rewarding jobs because when you see those pictures on Facebook of them having a blast, and you know that you help with that, I think it just really kind of reignites your passion and sort of makes all of the frustrations seem a little less intense when you know that you've really helped someone love their life. And I think that's why travel is so great because, you're not selling vacuums, you're selling vacations. I mean, how could you not just take some joy from that?
Absolutely. So here's sort of a final thing, although we do have our $50 gift card question coming right up, but we do want you to feel free to be in touch with either myself, Carol Fulmer, or Summer Corbett. And this is our information as to how you can get in touch with us. We'd be more than happy if we don't get to some questions today that you have in mind, or you just are wondering about something. Do shoot us an email. We would love to get to know you a little better or answer some questions. Yes?
Definitely.
So, Summer, do you have Q&A time now or the giveaway now? I'm not sure.
Yep, Sandy, maybe you could let us know if you'd rather do questions first or if you want us to do the giveaway question.
Yeah. Thank you for that presentation. That was fantastic. We have had quite a few comments that are in agreement with what you've been talking about, and a couple of questions. Let me get to the questions first. I'll tell you a couple of the comments, and then we'll do the prize giveaway. One of our agents wants to know your advice for kindly declining working with someone who is just a tire kicker.
Carol?
Very. So you've decided, as you've talked with them, maybe once, maybe twice, that it just may not be worth spending a lot of time on them. I have some ideas on that. Summer, anything jump out at you when you hear that?
I mean, because I don't have as much experience of working directly with the client, but I know sometimes you could just say, I don't know if this is going to be the right fit. I'd really love to help you with this, but I'm not sure that this is going to kind of work out as far as us getting you the vacation that you want and meeting all of your expectations.
Yeah, it's a tough one really because it seems like people who might be shoppers, as we have called them in the past, are going to buy something sometime from somebody. So there is the thought, is there a way to convert this person into someone who really will work with me? And that's a different kind of a conversation. So if they have come to you particularly more than once and put you to work gathering information and it just never goes anywhere, I mean, that's very frustrating. So I think setting some kind of a time frame for when the buying decision is going to be made and kind of seeing is it possible to pin them down on that? Because if it isn't, and if they're taking a lot of time, as you say, seeming to be just a tire kicker, then what Summer has said is probably as good as you can do. I just don't know that this will be a good fit for us to continue to working together to get to the thing that's going to make the best vacation for you. It's a tough one. It's a great question.
Thank you. There was another question that's kind of related to this one, I think, and that is, can you give us a short yes or no, what your feeling is about charging fees?
Oh, I surely can. Having been in this industry for a very, very long time, and as I said, I am I am so convinced of the value that you folks have. I just don't think I could run a business where I had to depend on what a supplier decided they might want to pay me. I just don't think that would work for me. I personally feel that I would bite the bullet, and at least part of my business, I would charge fees. Certainly, we all do with airline tickets. We know that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the more complex trips, the trips that use more of my time, that allow me to use more of my expertise. I would definitely charge fees for that. And I think I could explain that and feel very comfortable with it. Not everybody does. I know that, but I do. What about you, Summer?
Well, something that I know some agents do that I personally think is a really great idea. If you're scared of charging fees and you're worried about those tire kickers, that's sort of it's maybe a stepping stone to it. Is charge a planning fee that if they do book, then goes toward the trip. So they've got some money invested in what you're doing, but they're not necessarily paying extra. So that could be a good way to kind of get your feet wet in the charging fees. And if it is, as far as with fees, if it's a very complex um, trip that you're planning and you're putting a lot of time into it, I think it makes sense to charge a fee. Maybe if you're booking a really quick cruise, it doesn't. But what you could do is say, hey, you know what? I think just based off this itinerary, we're going to waive that fee for you. So you can choose to not charge that fee to someone that maybe had a much simpler request, and then you kind of look like the hero who's so generous and waiving your fee for them. So you could also think of it as that way to kind of get them to actually commit.
Fantastic.
It's very interesting in our industry how this particular topic, and there are just people very adamant on both sides of it. So I don't think there's one answer fits everyone. Some people do just fine, not charging any fees except maybe for airline tickets. Others definitely have a fee schedule where there are certain things they do charge for, and they wouldn't dream of waiving fee. I'm just saying, Summer, they wouldn't do it because they wouldn't want to set a precedent that I'm really not worth that much. I was just kidding. And I know that's not what you meant. But you see where I'm going. People have really strong ideas and different ideas about how to go about this.
And I know that the subject of charging fees can be an entire, not just a webinar, but an entire course by itself. So thank you for summarizing as much as you did. It's a very, very complex question. One of our agents during the slide about clients who book themselves, one of our agents said, I've had people tell me they booked online and then had to sit through a timeshare presentation. So,
That's one of my favorites. That's one of my favorites. That's one of those too good to be true offers that you get in the mail. Oh, yeah.
absolutely. We have other questions and many, many comments about what's being discussed. I want to just tell our agents that if we don't get to your question, Carol and Summer have posted their contact information and have said that they welcome your questions. You can send them by email and get to know you a little bit, and I'm sure they'll be happy to help. Let's ask one more question. This is also a question that can be a whole seminar in itself, so we know that. But what do you think is the best way for an independent agent, or I should say a home-based agent in particular, to market himself or herself, particularly when they are meeting with a potential client face to face?
So market themselves. In other words, maybe if you are meeting with someone, we're talking about how do you present your value when you are meeting with a client. I think that might be what the question is, because marketing yourself, that is, why would you book with me? And that is something every agent has to determine, knowing that every single person that comes to them has done bookings in another way. Every single person that they might reach out to has managed to plan travel and book travel without using you. So it's a great question, and one that, again, that planning ahead thing, where you have your key points about, here's what I will be doing on your behalf. Here are the value points, my value proposition. Here's what my clients value about what I do. Here's how I am able to service my client in emergencies. Those things that we've talked about today, you absolutely need to have your little list, either verbally or even a written list that you would go over. I want to add one little thing to that. At the end of that list, and I love this when I heard an agent doing this over the phone, she gave the list of the things she was going to do on behalf of that client, how she was going to tap into some resources that the client wouldn't even have. That's okay. She was going to take care of that. A lot of the key points here. And then she said, and I'm going to do all that for you. One thing I want to ask of you. If in the time we're working together on this trip, you come across something interesting online, or your neighbor tells you about something, let me know. Let me do my job and help evaluate whether that is something that would meet your needs. Let's work on this together. I thought that was fabulous, because they're not going to sneak around and look at stuff and then say, "Ooh, I better not tell my agent, she'll be mad at me." No, she's saying, we're going to work together on this. Do this for me. Let me know what you found and what sounds interesting so I can do my job and help evaluate it. I love that.
That is fantastic. I'm going to sneak one more quick question in here because I know it's something that a lot of agents deal with, and that is, how do you handle it when a potential client gives you an absolutely impossible budget for what they want to do?
I love it. That is such a tough one. Um, Certainly that's going to happen. I think we all know that people daydream, they look at pretty pictures in books. Boy, the worst are the ones that read the bride magazines, but let's pretend we're not dealing with them. But there is a sense, if you don't travel a lot, that you might not really be up to speed on what it costs to do what you have in mind. I would not shut anyone down based on your budget is not going to cover the trip you just described to me. I believe that, A, people aren't going to give you their actual complete budget. They're just not. They're going to give you a ballpark figure where they'd like to stay. You think of the people that go to Disney World with their family. They come out of there saying, "Oh my gosh, I spent arms and legs on food and stuff for my kids, and I loved it. We can't wait to come back." People spend more than they think when they're on vacation. So even though they have a budget, you're going to take that in mind. They may indeed have more that they could spend. So that's one possibility. The other is finding out how important the various features and things are with what they've told you they want. Is that real top of the line bungalow over the water the only thing that they are going to want, and it is $500, $600, $700 a night? Or might there be something that meets their most important criteria that would be a little less expensive? That's what you know, and that's what you do as a consultant. Would a shorter trip with the really hotshot place they want to stay, would that work and give them the real top of the line luxury they're hoping for, and they would just have to shorten the trip a little? So budget, it's an interesting one, but I think you can work within the parameters of that and help the client get something that is close to the budget and has certainly a lot of the features that they have in mind, and help them be a little more realistic. But I wouldn't just slam it right at the beginning.
Okay, great advice. Thank you. Again, if you have questions that we didn't get to, or if you think of something after this webinar is over, please do get in touch with Carol or Summer, and they'll be happy to help you out. So, Carol and Summer and Uniglobe have very generously provided a $50 Visa gift card to one of our travel agents. And here's how we're going to work this. Carol is going to ask a question about something that was discussed during this webinar. And the first correct answer I see come across my screen is going to be the winner. So I will let you know when we have a winner. And then if you're the winner, we will give your information to Carol and she'll get in touch with you about getting the prize. So Carol, if you have your question, I'm all ready.
Now, who has the drum roll? We need a drum roll. Oh, no, don't have a drum roll. Okay, here's the question. We talked about an ASTA report, and in that report, they quoted the savings for a client, but also the amount of time. Give me the number of hours in that ASTA report. They said a client could be saved. What is the number, the magic number? Very simple question.
Okay, we have a lot of people typing in the answer, and we have a winner. And the correct answer is 4 hours. And the very first answer that I saw come across my screen was typed in by Bernard Adriano. So congratulations, Bernard. We will be giving your information to Carol, and she'll get in touch with you about getting your gift card. So this has been fantastic. I want to thank you so much, Summer Corbett and Carol Fulmer from Uniglobe Travel Center. Thank you for all of this fantastic information. We really enjoyed your presentation.
Thank you.
And thanks so much again to all of our agents who are on this call. We appreciate your taking time out of your day to join us, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.